Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari, reaching you from our studios in Lagos, southwest of the country, where we're broadcasting from. We'll also be taking someone from our Abuja studios later on in the center of the city, the capital of the country. And in Lagos, it's drizzling, but that will depend on what side of the world you're on. In Lagos, even in Lagos, it's drizzling here. It might not be drizzling in Surulere or Apapa for all we know. Anyhow, the major thing that we wanted to talk about this morning is the health sector. By Friday, there was good news. The National Association of Resident Doctors had called off their strike. We spoke with their officials, but now that seems to have been replaced by an action by the the joint health sector unions. And we have this morning the National Vice President of the Joint Health Sector Unions, Dr. Obinna Ogbonna. Good morning, Dr. Ogbonna.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for making time for us. I imagine you guys must be quite busy. Well, first of all, I read about it that government, the Minister of Labour in particular, had sort of prevailed on you to reconsider and starting this action. Now, the news we heard was that the action will be starting from today, Monday. Is that indeed still good, or is there anything else that we should know?
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Carry on, sir. We can hear you.
All right, very good. These issues are becoming very perennial in nature. And most of the time when the government promise or reach an MOU or agreement or form of settlement, we find out that the government will not live to expectation in its implementation. And the meeting we had on the 10th, that was last week Thursday, 10th of September, the Minister of Labour and other government functionaries gave us an idea of what or how they want to handle the pending situations or demands. And we told them at that meeting that we have principles. All of this, your proposal, we shall take it back to the expanded NEC and discuss each of the items one after the other. Whatever the NEC decides over those issues, we shall communicate back to you. And truly, because it was an emergency situation, we had to call our NEC members into Abuja on Saturday, the 12th of September. And after the whole discussion, members viewed all of the proposal as not having any concrete item or resolution over those issues that were pending. And because of that, they said the ultimatum that was given should not be withdrawn. And if it expires, then they should begin the strike action. And it expired 12 midnight yesterday, and that is today now. The strike had been declared.
Okay, that might be a bit disappointing to some folk, because I know that the Association of Resident Doctors is not the entirety of the health sector, but they seem to give some hope that they didn't get every last thing that they wanted, but that they had enough to, so to speak, run with. All of that is now dashed, even though government did make some concessions, according to the Association of Resident Doctors that we spoke with. So none of that counts for anything now, is what you're saying, as a result of the larger body not being unduly impressed.
Yeah, for instance, like you re-echoed there, the Association of Resident Doctors went with its point agenda, and they came back with six out of 8. But for us, nothing tangible. Even the issue of just the ordinary, issue of COVID-19 allowance to our members because it was implemented wrongly. We had a meeting, I think 1st July 2020, over the error committed on the agreement, the 21st of April agreement or MOU on COVID-19. That one of the sections, Section A of that agreement, says that all health workers who hitherto had been collecting 5,000 naira as hazard allowance, it should be replaced with 50% of their consolidated health salary, basic salary. Okay? Then there was another provision on section B
what you've
of
just
that
said.
same
What you've just said,
agreement.
doctor, would mean that it would vary
Yes.
from doctor to doctor depending on what his particular figure was, right?
Correct. Nobody is asking for equality, but it should be equity because the COVID-19 cannot discriminate between one person to the other. But the difference will just be that because all of you are in the health sector, you are working in the health sector, you are exposed at different times. All right? So among the 5 points demands that we went with, none had any concrete resolution. And so when
Well, you just said 8.
listen to,
You just said 8. You've changed it to 5. I talking
I
about
was
different sectors.
I was referring because you mentioned the NAD, the National Association of Resident Doctors.
Yeah. Okay.
They went with 8 demands,
Okay.
and out of the 8,
Carry
Hello?
on, please.
out of the 8, 6 we learned that 6 was attended to. But out of our own 5 demands that we went with, none had been concretized. So when we brought the message back to the expanded NEC, they extrayed the various requests, and none has been done. For instance, let me just recap. They are not difficult things to do. For instance, we were talking about the issue of the correction that should be made on the COVID-19 allowance. So let it be 50% for everybody who had been earning the 5,000 naira hazard allowance at the initial as contained in that agreement. Then 2, the issue of our April-May salary that was withheld in 2018 when we embarked on a legitimate strike and the government failed on their part to meet our demands. We asked the government to pay it back. Because it seems to us that the government is being the Federal Ministry of Health is being very discriminatory in their approach to issues that has to do with the Johesu family. There are other members of the health sector that will go on strike. When they go on strike, when they come back, the issue of no work, no pay policy is never implemented on them. We have other people also in other sectors, like in the educational sector, that go on strike. When they come back, they will not implement no work, no pay on them. They will always hinge the facts their reason to the fact that we are essential service provider. When you are an essential service provider, you should also be treated essentially.
Okay.
All right. So the third issue is the adjusted CONHES. It has been adjusted for our counterparts in 2014. Ours, there was an agreement we had with the government on the 30th of September 2017, where the government said within 5 weeks, ours also will be adjusted. The process started. The Salaries and Wages and Income Commission was given that privilege to calculate what it will amount to pay or adjust the CONHES salary. They came up with a figure, 22.6 billion. And the then Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, assured us that he has written a covering note and they are taking it to Mr. President, our dear President. We were made to know later that the president did not give a consent or accede to it. We were not allowed to see Mr. President ourselves. Every opportunity to see him was placated. We could not see him.
Yes.
But luck shone on us on the 10th of March 2020. We were able to see our dear president. During the meeting, that was where the revelation was made. The Minister of Labour, Senator Chris Ngige, while addressing the issue, told Mr. President that he was sorry that they did not bring the requests of Joesu, the 22.6 billion that salaries and wages had calculated for our own adjustment salary to the table of Mr. President, that he was sorry that it only stopped at the table of the SGF then. So the president now looked at him and told him that he should go back and discuss with us with the mind of settling the matter, that he doesn't want the thing to be a perennial issue.
Okay.
We saw that there was deceit, because if Mr. President
Dr. Bona,
had been given the opportunity to see that request at that time, I'm sure our president would have done all to make sure that there would be peace and would have approved that request at that point in time.
Okay, before we continue, and we do have another your colleague in the public health sector expert. We'll be coming to that shortly. But I wanted to say the joint health sector health sector union. How wide is that? I mean, what does this mean? Is everybody a member of that, from the NMA to NAD to everybody? Does this mean the hospitals will be paralyzed?
All right. Thank you for that question. The joint health sector unions are made up of 5 registered unions in the health sector. They are the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, the Senior Staff Association of Universities and Teaching Hospitals and Research Institutes, that's SATURAI. We have the non-academic staff unions, NASU. We have the Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria, and we have the Nigerian Union of Allied Health Professionals.
Okay.
We make up 95% of the workforce in the hospital. It's only the medical practitioners that are not included in the joint health sector union.
Okay.
So we are a force to reckon with. If we withdraw our services, nothing tangible will go on in the hospitals.
Okay. One moment, I'll be back with you.
It's a serious matter.
Thank you very much, Dr. Madeli Boyo. You're also there with us. You can hear me. Could I just get your thoughts?
I can hear you.
Could I get your thoughts, Dr. Boyo, on this new situation? Whereas the National Association of Resident Doctors said that, okay, they'd see how it goes. They were calling off their strikes. But with the Joesu action now, give me your thoughts on that. Where does this leave the doctors who have called off their strike? And where does it leave healthcare in the public sector?
Yes, the first thing is that I sympathize with the members of Joesu. There are some things in their demands that were also in the doctors' demands, in terms of the infrastructural decay and bringing the hospital back to an acceptable state in the country. Both the Joesu and the medical doctors were asking for just this as well. Then, now that they are on strike, what happens is that the hospital will be paralyzed, because doctors can run the hospital, but running the hospital is not just enough. There's a need for us to have the cleaners, the accountants, the medical records people, the laboratory scientists, and then the nurses. So it's just like going in a musical circle of chairs. So the doctors have just resumed, only to go to work now without working, because at the end of the day, the gate man to the receptionist to the medical records will not turn up at work. So that's what it means. So we can say their strike, if it holds or it persists, will lead to a paralysis of the system.
So that is indeed what it will be, since, as you said, doctors can't function without the whole health infrastructure around them. And then when you look at the time we're in, there are those who are being optimistic and are saying that COVID-19 is on the back foot, so to speak. But it still is a medical emergency, or is it not, Dr. Boyo?
Yeah, it's still a medical emergency. And at times, when you look at the narratives and the way all these things should go, it's still the way of government, the way of government doing business. Government allows things to drag and drag. Even if it's NLC, Nupeng, Pengasad, ASU, NASU, all of them, when they approach government regarding any issue, they agree. Then government does cherry picking and government takes some and leaves some. Then those will come back and say, look, you didn't attend to all our demands. For instance, now, this issue of this structural decay in the teaching hospitals and government hospitals was discussed with Association of Resident Doctors. But government always gives the impression that all this staff, both the JOHESU, NARG, NMA, doctors, and others are concerned, is money. If you look at their demands, one of the key issues in their demands is that there's structural deficiencies in the government hospital, whether federal medical centers, teaching hospitals, or the federal, the other institutions like orthopedic eye centers and neuropsychiatric hospitals and things like that. The decay is enormous. In December 31st, 1993, when Buhari came to power, he described our hospitals as mere consulting clinics. What the doctors are saying now is that we are back to more than consulting clinics. We are now mortuaries, because in most cases, expensive equipments are broken down, they're not repaired. You are building new hospitals, you are putting up new structures everywhere, talking about having primary care centers in all the local governments, having better tertiary institutions, opening new universities, and universities are now doing medicine. But the point is that the older ones that are already in existence are not being properly taken care of. So in addition to salaries, what these doctors and the JOS are asking for, where is the structural, the infrastructure of the university, equipment, consumables, and infrastructure like lights, gas, and water. Many of those hospitals, sometimes you won't believe it, Yori, that some doctors gather to get money to buy some things because those things are not there. So the government should wake up, and because they have alternatives. Most of the top government officials, they fall ill today, they would likely go to India, Dubai, or Germany. But due to COVID-19, they're here with us. Have you noticed the deaths among the high top-level government officials were huge, because if it was before, they would have flown out. So the answer now is that not just salaries. Let's get the hospitals working, and let's get them fully equipped. Let's get them functional. Then this other thing that they ask for too, if you agree to give them 50%, give them the 50%. If you don't have it, call them and say you don't have it and arrive at the truth. Maybe it's not in the budget for this year, but people can't trust the government in negotiations, because at the end of the day, the government will agree to give it to them and they will not give it to them. So this young man cannot trust the government. Yes.
I want to thank you very much, Dr. Madili Boyo, for your thoughts this morning on the medical situation. Thank you very much, Dr. Madili Boyo, public health expert.
Thank you very much. Right. Thank you very much.
So, Dr. Ogbonna, back to you, sir.
Right, sir.
Now, as you know by now, government has said this action by JOHESU is actually illegal. What do you say of that?
Well, it depends on who is asserting the illegality. We have followed the requirements as stipulated in the Trade Dispute Act, the Trade Labor Act. We have given the statutory 15 days ultimatum required, or 15 days required notice to government. It is in the interest of an average Nigerian or the citizens, because we know that if government will be very sensitive, that 15 days gap was enough for government to arrest the situation and do the needful.
Okay.
But government had allowed the situation to drag without any concrete implementable resolutions of those issues that we raised. I mean, to our chagrin, while we were in the meeting, that was on Thursday, on the 10th of September. That was when it was revealed to us that government have 126 billion now that it has been appropriated into the 2020 budget to address the situations or issues of infrastructures.
Okay.
But we now said, for example, if we have not come out to cry and make noise over it, over the years we've been saying this, but nobody cared to listen to us. But the COVID-19 episode or pandemic had just exposed all this weakness that we've been shouting about. Mm-hmm. And I thank God that this has happened now. Ditto for other issues that we have been requesting and demanding from government.
Okay.
There are court judgments that courts of competent jurisdictions had given to our members, to our credit. Up to this moment, all the court judgments had not been implemented by the Federal Ministry of Health.
But Dr. Ogbonna, whereas I totally understand, and most people will sympathize with the doctors, but because of the nature of you said that sometimes you tend to feel as if you're being blackmailed a bit. This is the worst time possible for people to go on strike because of the health emergency that we have. And you've heard it a million times, no doubt. Doctors are sworn to do all they can to protect lives and keep health. And so going on strike at this particular time, was there absolutely no way out, in the sense that maybe there's no good time to go on strike, but this is a particularly challenging time, Dr. Ogbonna?
Yeah. Well, the presenter, to be sincere with you, we have been very, very magnanimous. We have tried our best to show maturity and to also consider the plight of an average Nigerian. Those who live in glass houses should not throw stones. Or you don't throw stone into the market square, because you never can tell whom the stone will land on. Okay. We have considered all of this. Even at the worst period of the COVID-19 pandemic, some section of the health sector also, went on strike. Okay. Now, what we are saying is this. There is no better time to address these issues than now. Okay. The caregivers need to be cared for. If we do not have enough basic protective equipment and you want us to go out there to take care of people, that means we are exposing our lives and that of our families to danger. And
I hear you.
For now,
I get you, Doctor.
In the Joesu family, we have about over 1,000 members infected with COVID-19. And you know the ripple effect it will have. So we are counting the numbers and the deaths.
All right.
And we cannot continue this way. This is the time for the government to show us that we matter.
Okay,
Do
Doctor.
These things that are within your confines and make the workers happy. We are the soldiers now, the health soldiers. You need to boost our morale.
Indeed.
All these things we've been canvassing for had been there many years. Okay. It is not that it is the COVID-19 that brought them out. No,
we're going to have
they are perennial issues.
We're going to have to leave it there,
which has been parried over and over.
We're going to have to leave it there with you, Dr. Ogbonna, National Vice President of Johesu. I want to thank you very much for making time for us. Indeed. So thank you very much for coming on. Okay,
thank
and we still have Dr. Boyo on the line.
And also pressurize the government to lean their voice and ask the government to do the needful so that there will be peace in the health sector.
Thank you very much. Dr. Boyo, last word. Sorry, yes. I crossed my lines the other time, but last word here. The doctors would appear to be, approaching this, in a sort of a strategic way, as the doctor said there. There's no good time, but this is probably the best time. That whole emotional point, perhaps, is what doctors might consider it as. But the point about this is a particularly delicate time to withdraw services because we have a health emergency on our hands. Very, very briefly, Doctor, how do you see that particular aspect of the conversation?
Yes, the last speaker was talking on behalf of Johansson, not doctors. Is most likely a lab scientist or one of the other medical units,
Yeah.
but not medicine. It's quite ill-timed. It's quite ill-timed, and most of us senior doctors will not want it at this time.
Okay, one moment, sir. One moment, sir. Let me quickly bring in Mr. George, who has come on the line. One moment, sir. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Yeah, thank you for calling in.
Uncle Yori, I was expecting this from Johesu after the doctors' strike. It is to be expected because they will also come and say, where is our own? But listening to the conversations there, I really feel ashamed about certain things that happen in this country. It is Dr. Boyo that is saying the real thing, that these health workers ought to be addressing the infrastructure in the health sector. But that doesn't seem to be the case. They are after the one that will go into their own pockets. I see selfishness everywhere. The same thing with ASU. Now, the COVID-19, Uncle Yori, is a lesson to anybody that wants to learn. I had thought it would help our leaders know that the health sector needs to be addressed because a time will come when they will not be able to fly to other countries to go and take medical treatment as has happened during the lockdown. Why is it not being addressed? And why are those who are agitating not talking about that one? They are only talking about the aspect that will go into their pockets. What kind of country is this one, for goodness sake?
Okay, then. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. Would you like to react to that, Dr. Boyo?
Yes, that's exactly what I was saying, that both the doctors and the Johesu is ill-timed. But you see, mutual distrust. Both parties have come to distrust themselves. You remember what the young man said, that the president was asking the Minister of Labor about a file. And he said he didn't know about it. I thought it was the Secretary of the federal government. So, bureaucratic bottlenecks.
And the Minister of Labor happens to be a medical doctor himself.
Johesu now. Yes, and Johansson now, if you notice very well, they are holding the government by the balls. They are twisting them because the government needs them at this time. It's wrong. But you can't blame them because that's how the game is played in this country.
Okay, one moment, please. Let me bring in
to it when it is
one moment, Dr. Boyo. Thank you, sir. One moment, please. Let me bring in Mr. Lawale in Ikorodu. Go right ahead, sir. Good morning. Mr. Lawale, can you hear us? Olawale in Ikorodu, good morning. Well, that's not...
Hey, good morning, very long time.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Yes, I think the problem in the hospital...
Carry on, please.
Yes, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, the problem in the hospital, let us sit down and solve this problem once and for all. I retired in the hospital as a director of administration. There is always a friction between the medical doctors on one side and all other health workers. Okay? The medical doctors feel superior to other categories of workers. Other categories of workers are not mechanics and they are not carpenters. They also went to school and they are professionals on their own. If the doctors want peace in the hospital, let them carry along as the head of the team. We are...
Did we lose Olawale in Ikorodu? But okay, I think the call dropped. But Dr. Boyo, let me come back to you on that again.
Yes. What he's saying has been a persistent problem. Like I said, the issue is mutual distrust. The health workers don't trust the government, and the government, the way of government, You've been having meetings with these people. You have promised them. Keep your promise. But I want to say that the problem with the health workers now is that the focus has been too much on this salary, whether it's disparities or on paid allowances. I know it's important. What we should be fighting for now is the infrastructure. Get every hospital to have light 24/7. Get every hospital to have water 24/7. Get drugs to be present. Get patients to have quality care that they won't need to go to Dubai. Bring the best health care to Nigeria.
Okay.
And then you now put that with the motivation of the doctors and other medical personnel. And if you promise them something, give it to them. Not promise them today and it's not in the budget. Oh, it's
All
in a
right.
file somewhere. It looks
Could I
very,
interrupt
very
you again, Dr.
unacceptable.
Boyo? I hear you, sir. Can I interrupt you again, please, to bring in Tunde in Mushi? Good morning, sir.
Oh, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling. Good morning.
I think our government needs to do the needful. It's just unfortunate. Oh, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Yeah, I can hear you. Please continue. I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I think the government needs to do the needful. It's just unfortunate that this COVID-19 has really exposed a lot of things. I'm a professional in my own way of life. I'm an accountant. But if you see what is really happening, all this, what the government are putting up in terms of small place of isolation, the amount of money they are committing into building isolation, put into building and all our infrastructures, putting them in a better place, perspective. I think all these ones we are talking of today would not have been there.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Boyo was talking of maybe probably the Jerusalem.
I wonder where he was going to go with that, Dr. Boyo. That Tunde was our last caller. But I guess the main plank of his contribution was that government really has to do the needful. And no doubt he was talking about, I would guess he was going the way of the whole health structure, infrastructure, that perhaps a lot more could be done about that, Dr. Boyo.
Yes, and that's true. Most hospitals today don't have functional generators everywhere. Our power is epileptic. The beds are filled with bed bugs. Patients are not satisfied. And so when doctors want to go on strike, they should put first and foremost the patient first, and they need to have these infrastructures working so that they can have a conducive working environment. Then after that, government will be forced at this COVID-19 time to make sure that every teaching hospital, every primary health care center is functional, well equipped, and infrastructures are okay. Then we can begin to bring in our demands, like our contingency allowance, our hazard allowance, our COVID-19. Why call for COVID-19 allowance when you don't have water? You don't have light. Your equipment are not working. So and that's what the young man was trying to say, that there was money to build these isolation centers. Many of them sprang up within a week, 2 weeks, beautiful centers, air conditioned. Meanwhile, the wards, the infectious disease wards, are still filthy.
Okay, Dr. Boyo, we're going to have to leave it there.
Yes.
We're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very, very much, Dr. Boyo, for making time out of your a very busy schedule. A doctor is always a busy man. Dr. Modeli Boyo, public health expert. Thank you, sir. So that's on that. We're going to have to leave that and there and observe, as it were, how the authorities come together and all of that. This is not the kind of time that Nigerians, will not express some apprehension, fear even, if the medical sector is paralyzed, as it's likely to be. As has been said by the two experts, the two doctors, there's precious little that doctors themselves can do if they don't have their infrastructure all around them, the nurses, the administrators, and all of that. And even as we were hearing from somebody who retired in that sector as the director of admin, there's always been some sort of an issue between those member unions, the doctors, and the, shall we say, supporting staff that they have. Okay, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll be looking at the Edo situation, working up to the Edo election coming up on the 19th. Okay, welcome back. And if you've just joined us, there's still a lot of meat on the bone, and we want to look ahead of the Edo, I beg your pardon, Edo governorship election. And in fact, we two principal parties, not that there are, two principal, as it were, contenders, not that there aren't other contenders, talking about APC and PDP. If you want to turn it the other way around, PDP and APC. So the first of the parties that we can, grab hold of this morning, we'll be looking at the other one after that. We're expecting to be able to speak with Prince Emmanuel Odigye. Prince Emmanuel, was a commissioner in the administration of Governor Obaseki when he was in APC. But now that that contestant has moved, the PDP contestant, moved from APC and became a PDP contestant. Good morning, Prince Odigye.
Good morning to you today. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And I was just saying, you're the former commissioner, Edo State Oil and Gas Producing Area Development Commission. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely correct.
Yeah. So for a moment there, were you ever in PDP, or quite frankly, it's a bit confusing because I even hear that the chairman of PDP has come over to APC. So I said I'd sort all of that out if I got a high-ranking official. So where are we exactly?
We in the APC, we don't believe in propaganda. We don't lie.
Okay.
We don't deceive the people. That's not correct. That information is not correct.
Oh, it is not?
It's the same PDP that is using their propaganda machineries to lie to Edo people.
I see.
The PDP state chairman remains in PDP. He has not decamped to APC, to the best of my knowledge.
Okay.
That's not true. That's not correct at all.
Well, thank you for clearing that up. But we're talking APC here, and we're looking ahead of the Edo governorship election. Give me your assessment. Would you say things are going well? Arrangements, the way your political house is feeling. Give me your assessment, because it's just around the corner.
To my assessment, it is clear. And I'm sure as a pressman, you've followed Obaseki's administration since inception. And you would recall on the 3rd anniversary, the then PDP state chairman, Chief Dan Obi, he came out with a press statement that Obaseki has called F9 in every sector. The only A1 he's called, based on Dan Obi's assessment, was increasing the taxes, increasing the burden on those people. That was Dan Obi's assessment on the 3rd anniversary of Godwin Obaseki's administration. And having said that, you can also attest to the fact that so many people who worked assiduously to ensure Obaseki's victory in 2016, who were in his government, has resigned their appointments. The chief of staff was the first to say, look, I'm tired of deceiving Edo people. I cannot continue to lie to my people. He resigned as chief of staff. That's the engine room of any administration. And several commissioners has resigned. Just last week, another commissioner resigned. Special advisors, SSA, SAs are resigning daily. Vice council chairmen, councillors, in their numbers, it is clear that it is victory all the way for APC. The man, Pastor Osagi Izeyam, who is a household name in Edo, is a man that has friends in the 18 local governments, in the 192 wards, in various units. I will tell you a story that will amaze you and shock you. I went for a wedding. One of my young friends got married 3 years ago. And when I got there late. He came to invite me with his wife, with a bottle of wine and card. I said, no, keep the drink. I went there. To my amazement, I met Pastor Osagi Izeyam there in a remote village in Esa. And I asked the young man, so Pastor Osagi Izeyam? He said, no. that he went to train in his school, his farm, OIM farm, Izeyamu's farm. That since then he has a relationship with him. He just sent a text message to all his contacts. And Pastor Saige Izeyamu saw the invite on his phone and honored that young man with his presence. That is a man that cares. The second story is another man, young man, who went to train in his farm as well. 4 years ago or 5 years ago, he went to train there. You know what the man said to me? He came to me and brought a cap, a campaign material. Vote for the shepherd, vote APC POI. And he said he did only 50 of that to take to his village and beg people to vote for the man who has kept a good relationship with him over 6 years. That he only went to his farm as a trainee and from there established a relationship with him. Then on Saturday, he will come and play football with them and play draft with them. Izeyamu can associate. He associates with the high and mighty. That is why you see in every ward, in every unit in Edo today, it is POI all the way.
Okay.
You know, they just want to foment trouble, tension everywhere because the state government has failed. They can see it is glaring. The government is collapsing per second per second. People that have contributed to the little success, all the strategies that was brought on board to the governor that he never listened to. People are tired of PowerPoint presentations. People are tired of MOUs.
Okay.
Edo people want to see good governance. They want to see infrastructural development on ground. They want to see an improved health sector. They want to see youths employed. They want to see institutions that have been closed down by this administration work again. The ministries, you know, if I tell you the state of Edo education today, all the tertiary institutions have been shut down by this administration.
But can I say, Prince,
College of
Prince,
Education,
could I come in?
all shut down. College of Agriculture,
let me come in,
shut down.
Prince. Let me come in, Prince. A lot of the things that you're saying now about how relatable the APC candidate Izeyamu is, when the going was good with Obaseki, very much similar. If not identical. He was seen as a man of the people. Perhaps you're very good self-inclusive. We're saying at the time that every person in Edo State can relate with Obaseki. He is the man of the people.
That is not correct. That is not correct. That is not correct. I will tell you for free that as I speak to you this very minute, you can verify my statements. Today, there are 7 commissioners that do not have official vehicles. The 18 council chairman and vice chairman does not have official vehicles.
Okay.
He refused to approve for them.
All
so
right.
they do not have relationships with him. I was in our administration.
Okay, so
I
you
can
would know.
tell you
Okay.
authoritatively
Okay.
that the governor
I
is
was
not
referring to
accessible.
when the going still was good. I wasn't referring to
When the going was good, all we were trying to do was to ensure that all these PowerPoint presentations should be made reality on ground. And we waited patiently. And the party leadership continually to advise. You can only advise. There's nothing you can do.
Okay.
If you advise and your advice is not adhered to, what can you do?
Okay, let me
You know,
bring
he's
it.
the chief security officer. He's the governor. You know, and when he refused to ensure that the manifesto of the APC, you know, what APC has promised Edo people, when he refused to deliver, the APC leadership said, no, you have failed us as a people.
Okay,
You have
let me
failed
bring
us
in
as
Mazi Okoroafo, who
So
has
you are
called
not
in.
deserving.
A viewer, Mazi Okoroafo, has called in. Good morning, Mazi.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Yeah.
Adam speaking, Mr. Yori. See, yesterday, governorship chat. But just if Nigerians are literate, they will just assess on that chart and say, this is the party I'm going to go. Because of our level of illiteracy and all this issue of money politics, that is where the problem lies. Because if you monitor the chart yesterday, that TV chart that was carried by Channel, and let me forget about television. It could have helped Nigerians to know that when somebody comes into the sort of chart, you tell them what to. But the major problem in that chart, I discovered that people come into such chart, you just be criticizing. You do this. How are you going to do this? When and how and to which people? That is what they call chart. But you see today is that I need your good, I need your good. You will give you education, I'll give you employment, I'll give you great food and this. How are you going to do this? Although we have less than 1 week to go, but it's so fortunate that the charter was supposed to give us the summary how they are going to handle all these issues that be thrown. But rather, what was going on? Past regime, this is past regime, this is that is not politics. Nigeria should learn when you come to the TV chat, follow what is happening outside. Tell us what you have to do, how you are going to do this, and who are going to benefit. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day in Lagos.
Okay, thank you very much, Mazi Okorafor. Okay, the charts he was talking about are not too far removed from PowerPoint presentations, but how would you respond to that, Prince?
I will tell you this much. It is glaring to Edo people why the PDP has built a war room, propaganda, deception. Pastor Saige Zeyamu is busy introducing his simple agenda to Edo people. He has a social contract with Edo people. He has said to Edo people, in 4 years, if I do not achieve everything on this simple agenda, do not return me. I have a copy of the simple agenda. I have read it back to back 1,001 times. I even personally made copies of my own. Everywhere I go, I give to people. I give to religious leaders, opinion leaders, community leaders, traditional leaders, youths, women organization, all sorts of organization. And I have said to all of them, if Pastor Osaige Izeyamu do not deliver on this promise, on this simple agenda, do not return him.
Okay, well, that much you said.
I am saying to you, I have confidence in Pastor Osaige Izeyamu. And that is why I am out there campaigning for him word to word, unit to unit.
Okay, you talk about propaganda from your your competitor, especially the PDP. It's also been said that there are preparations, designs, organizations to quote unquote rig the election. Perhaps you might have heard that too.
Well, I would tell you the truth. It's not the first time Edo is experiencing an election whereby a governor is seeking to be re-elected. You know, you remember Oshomole's second-term election. Based on his works, what Edo people saw him do, what was on ground, the Red Roof Revolution, in all sector, Adams Oshomole lit up Edo. You can travel into Benin City from every state, neighboring states, on a good road, 2 side drains, walkway, highly littered. Then, with a beautiful water fountain where people go and relax with their families on Fridays, weekends. You know, Benin was lit up. The security was not perfect, but relatively okay.
Yeah, but
but
what does this have to do with the allegation of the alleged rigging?
Okay, let me tell you. Because it is glaring that POI has won already, the Edo people are receptive. Everywhere we have been, it is in this. I will use my local government as an example. I am from Eastern Southeast local government. The governor promised us several things. He didn't do one. There is no one single project in Eastern Southeast local government. He did not construct 1 kilometer road. He did not build one health center. Even the hospital, General Hospital, in my village, there's no single doctor, no nurses. I can fund your news crew to come to my local government. I will take you around the 10 wards. There is no single project. Are you going to tell me that Eastern Southeast people would reinforce failure, would vote for a governor that did not employ one teacher? For the past 3 years, I have personally paid 2 teachers in the only secondary school in my village. There are no teachers.
Prince, I take all of this to mean that you are dismissing the allegations of intention to rig.
It's not true. It is just crying wolf.
Okay.
They are the one fomenting troubles. They are the one bringing in thugs from everywhere. And Edo people are not intimidated. We have resolved to vote for a man who has led within us, a man with passion, a visionary leader, a man that have what it takes to deliver on his promises.
Prince.
And that man is Pastor Saige Izeyamu. Oshomole did well, and his re-election was victory, 18/18, and it's going to happen again in Edo.
Thank you
where
very much.
a sitting governor defeated in his ward, his local government,
Prince.
and his senatorial district.
Prince Emmanuel Odigie, thank you very much for
you.
making time for us this morning. Really appreciate
you
your
so
coming
much.
on, indeed. So that's speaking about the APC candidate for the election. By tomorrow, we'll get hold of the PDP candidate or representative of the PDP candidate and hear it from, his mouth, as it were, or their mouth, as it were. So that's our program today. Thank you very much for being with us, and we've got to bring it to an end here. And as I always say, please do your best to stay, safe in health terms. COVID-19 is still very much with us. Observe all the protocols. So see you tomorrow, God willing. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.